can. We're all here. Om Sato Ma Sat Gamaya, Tamaso Ma Joy Tir Gamaya, Merchor Ma Amritam Gamaya, Abir Amareti, Rudrate Dakshinam Mukam, Tenamam Pahinicham, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to light, from lower truth to higher truth, from the unreal to the real, and from the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us. May peace be unto all. Om Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Tat Sat. So welcome to another Saturday, which means for some of us, a week has ticked by so quickly. And here we are on our Saturday and Sunday sessions. That is, today's session would be this satsang, and an hour after it finishes, the God blog session. I posted 4 more God blogs in the middle of the week for us new ones, so you can be looking at those beforehand. And I'll also give a class tomorrow, a final class of the Vedanta theology and science and their comparative views, which we've been going on for 3 weeks now, 3 Sundays. So that's all to happen this weekend. Now we find ourselves at satsang. For us here in Hawaii, it's an early morning satsang. All of you must be into your day already. And hopefully have already, since it's a weekend and who have some time, already been on the Gita and been on the gospel, and not just online, but doing your meditations and your various ruminations. We call it Shravana and Manana, to hear and then to meditate upon or to contemplate. And then your meditations will be much better because they'll be fueled by thoughts on reality alone, as the Upanishads say to us. Take that mind like an arrow, sharpen it with thoughts of God alone, and then aim it at the mark, which is the imperishable Brahman, Akshara Brahman. And when one accomplishes that day to day, then this transformation that's so longed for by the devotees and so sought after by the Gyanis, and becomes possible for the meditator, that will enter into one's life and sometimes even take the seeker by surprise and find out that it's more of a discovery or a revelation rather than something that you lost or something that you don't have that you're trying to create. And it begins to fill in all the cracks in your thinking consciousness, as they say. And hopefully that stored up power, which we call ojas in Sanskrit, or tejas, it culminates in tejas, that will be enough to help the aspirant pierce through the curtain of Maya, or the curtain of nescience, sometimes we call that, and be able to have deeper insights day to day into the nature of reality and the truth of everything is Brahman, to quote Vivekananda. And then with that accomplished, one can live a truly divine life, or at least a dharmic life that's balanced and peaceful, which is in itself quite an accomplishment in this day and time. As we look about us, even in our own country, seeing all the upheavals going on and various forms of insanity beginning to manifest in minds that did not think about divine reality alone, maybe never thought of it even by accident, as Sri Ramakrishna said. So separating ourselves from those and going beyond the heavenly aspiring senses, as the Upanishad says, then one begins to take up one's place in these inner worlds and shift consciousness to that place, and then becomes an observer of things external, and goes about life sort of as an automaton, the Upanishads say, sort of like a robot that just moves about without emotional reactions, observes everything, and develops a witness consciousness within. So I'm sort of summating some 40, 50 years of my own practice in this darshana of India called Vedanta, and then trying to pass it on to others who may be truly interested and want to also develop that equipoise, that or equanimity that the seers value so highly. And a lot of it has to do with reaching a place of colorless karma or inaction, transcendence of action, but it also has to do with being able to act selflessly for the highest good of others. And all the four main yogas, and all their concomitants also get pulled into that wonderful aspect of life we call spiritual or religious and philosophical, or cosmological, religious and philosophical. All of those aspects are terrains of consciousness or of awareness. And the great ones who have studied awareness know it to be timeless and deathless and pure. And it doesn't need to be purified. It's already pure. So then we fall back or thrown back upon the mind, because it's dual by nature, and it has good, bad, and mixed in it. And it has individual, collective, and cosmic in it. And it goes through states of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. And it's also earth, heaven, and hell, and probably realms of your ancestors and beyond too. So the mind stretches a long way in either direction. And another reason why one needs to develop that observer station or witness consciousness and look out from a stationary position and do it from that hub of the chariot wheel called the heart, where thousands and thousands of subtle nerve endings meet, like the spokes of a chariot wheel. And if one can establish oneself in that center, then one can observe both the mind and then be able to discover the deeper aspects. And all the best gems lie at the depths of the ocean, Sri Ramakrishna says. So we need to be able to develop spiritual lungs, a kind of capacity to remain longer and longer in times of study and meditation. And that will develop a facility in us like a turtle that can dive for long periods of time and not surface for the air of the world. And will also make it a more conscious act on our part, because we do that in deep sleep, all of us, most of the time anyway, when we're in deep sleep. So we should be able to do that also in a waking state. And as if pretty soon waking, dreaming, and deep sleep are all just one thing, and one doesn't shift anymore. One reclaims the territory of consciousness at all levels, and and then looks upon it and sees that it's seamless. And at that point, then, of course, the battle is won, and one can posit oneself in any state of consciousness one desires. That's the kind of facility that needs to be developed. And also moving from body to body, one can do that without problems, as Krishna says in the Gita. Like a child putting on new clothes when it outgrows the old ones, it just sloughs off bodies and is able to move without problem, without fear, without impediment, and penetrate even through to the densest of areas and bring light there. Go from place to place and help them out of darkness, as Swami Vivekananda has written. So all of that as a early Saturday morning in Hawaii, aloha to all of you, and the kind of thoughts that are circulating here at Badranath on the slopes of Mauna Kea, the volcano, where nearby one of our volcanoes is going off. So we feel quite a power here all the time, underground underlying power. And sometimes it even shakes us a little bit physically each day or each week. So Mother Pele, we call her, is constantly bubbling up from the depths to the surface, reminding us of this dynamic power that Shakti possesses, and reminding us also to consciously focus upon it, not just let it leave it to its own devices, but consciously focus on it and make it a part of our everyday life. So maybe that is what we are all doing week to week, consciously, as much as we can work it into our daily life. How much of a percentage of our attention goes towards the divine and how much has to stay on quotidian matters of the world. But that's up to the devotee. At least they have that relative free will to be able to break through and break free of the gravity of worldly consciousness, because such a greater percentage of our population of this world seems to focus there all the time. So those of you who have hot air balloons and have cast out the sandbags and are rising daily, each day after you wake up, what do you say from your own stations there, from your own stations of witness consciousness? You're all little bits of consciousness connected to the whole, to the mass of consciousness. And what's your radar say each day? What are you picking up of higher things, finer things, and more spiritual matters? And what does it call up in your mind, question-wise? Nikhil has one already, I think.
Yeah, you read my mind. Namaste, Babaji.
Namaste.
I have been contemplating prarabdha karma, and I'm just wondering if there is a way to be certain that you are living out only prarabdha karma and not accruing new karma. Because my assumption is that the way to know for certain is that you've given up any sense of agency in your action, and you've given up any desire for the fruits of your action, and you're really abiding in a more selfless state in just a witness consciousness, like you were talking about at the beginning of Satsang today. But I guess my question is beyond that, is there a way to be certain that the action that you're performing is only due to the prarabdha karma that you're now living out, that's keeping you in a form till the day of your death, of your body, not your soul? Yeah, I'm just wondering, that would be my question right now.
Well, there's really no way possible to be absolutely certain of anything in the realm of karma. It's, uh, I think what guides you through that is your certitude about the existence of Brahman and the self. And that's why you remain focused on it, because karma is unreadable and comes from all sorts of places. And as I just said, individual, collective, and cosmic. And the collective part of it is really beyond our control. We can control our individual karma, but as you just mentioned, even that is quite complex. You're talking about prarabdha karma, which is the karma which formed our bodies right now. So we're having to live through that as an arrow shot out of a bow. Can't call that arrow back. So we took birth, hopefully for better and higher reasons, and with more and more consciousness at our beck and call in each given lifetime. As Sri Aurobindo says, better and better lifetimes each time. But we know that when we took the prarabdha, that was connected to our past karma, which we're bringing forward, called sanchita karma. And so you bring some of the sanchita karma forward into your life, and that manifests as prarabdha karma. But some people can bring all of it forward because maybe they don't have that much from past lifetimes. They're already rather neutral and in control of things. Other people only bring parts of their sanchita forward to work out. It's as if before, when they're in the bardo beyond the body, and before birth and after death, then they look and see that they need to come back to earth, and they also look and see the store of karma that they have, and they also look to see how much of it they figure they can work out, and then bring that much back to do a better job in each lifetime. Problem is, when they get here to earth, of course, that there's so many allurements and distractions on all sides, and there you have it again, the field of karma all around you. Holy Mother said, you don't take anything with you after you leave the body. Only karma follows you after you leave here. So that's why we're very important. That's why it's very important that we neutralize as much or all of that karma while we're living, so that we can be free agents and make our own choices and not fall under the influence of everything from our ancestors, which Buddha spoke about, right on down to our own folly and our own errors and our own blindness. If we can free ourselves in this lifetime from all of that, then we've worked out the prarabdha karma. You know how Shankara described that. The potter is forming a pot on the wheel, and the wheel is spinning, and he's forming it with his hands, the wet clay, and it spins because then he can see the angularities and smooth them out. And so he smooths them out, and when the thing is spinning, and it doesn't even look like it's spinning, like a candle in a windless place kind of teaching, then he sees the pot is absolutely perfect because it's spinning, but it doesn't look like it's moving. So then he stands up and walks away from the wheel, and the wheel was pumped by his foot, and that made the pot spin. So when he walks away, the pot is perfect, but it goes on spinning for a while, and then it finally stops. So that's the metaphor used for prarabdha karma that's been worked out in this lifetime. When all desires have been fulfilled, Holy Mother says, that's the last lifetime for you, and then you will not need to be reborn again on earth in the body, unless it is your choice. Of course, that's a jivan mukta or a bodhisattva. So that prarabdha karma gets worked out, and otherwise, if it isn't, then that's called agami karma, that you're creating karma for the future. And that's done, of course, in this lifetime, and possibly also you didn't work out all your sanchita past karma. So you're going to bring that forward again in the next life. It's already a done deal. And that's why sadhana is good. And I was just working on a God blog called the karma destroying power of the mantra, because Holy Mother says that you can reduce your karma if you are destined in this lifetime because of your sanchita karma to receive a wound as wide as a plowshare. Do you all know what a plowshare is? Where the farmer is plowing along and leaving a big furrow. So if you're destined to leave a bit, to get a wound come to you in this lifetime because of your karma, as wide as a plowshare, but you do the mantra and one mantra to one deity for a long period of time till you reach the goal, and then that mantra will reduce that to just a scratch in the earth, she says. So that furrow that was going to be you're going to have to suffer karma-wise will be reduced just to a small scratch in the earth. So that's how practices that we do, and why it's so important that we do those practices in this lifetime, because most people aren't doing sadhana, so we don't have many examples or many people encouraging us or guiding us to do that. So that's why your own self-effort and a good teacher are of prime importance in India's darshanas. Once you're on the track, then you're reducing your karma. Pretty soon you've got it evened out. And then you're a free agent, if you want to put it very simply. And my teacher was always telling us from the podium, why hasn't America produced any Jivan Muktas yet? You know, Swamiji had been there since 1893 with the absolute truth of Vedanta. And he's talking to us in the 1970s and 80s from the podium, telling us, where are your Jivan Muktas? It's been decades now. You should have worked it out by now. But because you're materially oriented, then of course, you're just making the same mistakes and going to war again. And your politics are falling apart and things are turning insane. So maybe that's not the track that we want to go along, many of us, or some of us at least. So another thing about prarabdha karma is that there's a fourth kind of karma called kriyamani. And it's a karma that just comes from nowhere. Nobody knows. It arises each day, sort of out of nowhere. And it's unfigurable where it came from. But the word kriya means, of course, kind of spontaneous, and mani means mind. So kriyamani karma means just this karma that rises from the mind, because the mind is such a wide field. So there's no telling what you could do. I mean, think of a person going to the marketplace, and he walks into the marketplace and he's looking for one particular item. He goes and spends an hour or two there in the marketplace, and he finds the item. But how many people did he have to bump against? And how many times did he have to stop and ask for directions and inquire and so forth? So that would be kind of that would be kind of a analogy for a person who is having this kriyamani karma rise up from his everyday actions. You can't tell whether it's yours or whether it came from the people in the marketplace, or whether it's from the past lifetimes, or if it's just spontaneous and doesn't have an explanation. It's all inscrutable, as Holy Mother said. Maya is inscrutable. You can't find reason for it. You shouldn't be looking for it. You should be studying it from a distance as a witness. So anyway, my point about kriyamani karma here is that it's kind of an indicator as to what your prarabdha karma is. If you have a lot of kriyamani karma coming from nowhere, then there's some unconnected wires somewhere in your thinking, and there's some there's some imbalances, and um, you'll have to tighten up the ship and of the body mind mechanism, and sail on a straighter course. Look deeper into the causes for these things, and make sure that you're free of cause and effect as much as possible. And then things don't get interrupted in life. A lot of my students complain about their smooth course being interrupted. Say, if you look at your life for a month, how much of that was smooth sailing, and how much of it got interrupted by rajas and even tamas, and these unseen things coming into your life from nowhere. And what kind of defenses do you have up against them? Can you prepare ahead of time for them? So in that way, there are indicators in the process themselves. It's like Maya will confuse you, but she'll also teach you. So that's why it's also important to observe everything very carefully. Any other questions? Yes, Jerome.
Namaste, Babaji. Actually, that was a pretty good segue into my question. So my current understanding is I've taken a lot of births, and I've accrued a certain amount of karma that I'm trying, like, now that I'm aware of it, I would like to try to work off a little bit. And I know I understand that I need to use mantras in order to sort of fill in the cracks in the vessel, like in your God blog. But trying to choose the right one. I've been doing like 4 or 5 twice a day, 40-day mantras. And every time I finish a 40-day mantra up, I have to choose a new one, and trying to figure out what mantra best suits the slow but steady course of cleaning that karma up so that my austerities aren't too intense. Like in the Gita, it says that you shouldn't pursue severe austerities. Like when you starve your body, you're starving the deities in your body. And just trying to find that right middle path that doesn't have to hurt me in my daily practice, but still is a daily practice where I don't have to, I don't have to torture myself trying to do austerities and trying to figure out which ones best suit me.
Well, first question would be, have you given up taking drugs?
Yeah.
Well, that would be important, because just trying to do the mantra when there's still leaks in the vessel, as you say, is not going to be much of a solution. There'll still be problems coming back. So you have to make sure that, as that God blog, Jerome's mentioning the God blog of storing up honey that I just put up. Maybe you could all read that in the next hour after we finish Satsang. We can talk more about it. But I think that, since you're not my initiated disciple or devotee, that it's kind of hard for me to tell you what to do. I mean, Swami Vivekananda, if you were his disciple, he'd almost beat you to death with what you had to do. He'd come down very hard on you. But if you weren't his disciple, he'd just treat you as politely as he could, and just leave you to your own devices. So it's a bit difficult for me to on something as deep a matter as the mantra, and as well figured as it is in the Ramakrishna order, and what an art it is. And of course, our mother, Holy Mother, is perfect in mantra. That's one of the main aspects of her. is that she's Japaharini, made perfect in mantra, and that she said that Sri Ramakrishna gave her all the mantras and connected them all to all the deities when she was living. But of course, that's a very special case, and it kind of then bridges on what I could say to you about it, and that is that usually you get the mantra from an illumined preceptor or from a Dharma teacher on a holy day, and you get it transmitted by that person, and it's just one mantra, and then you use that for the rest of your life, and that opens up the three cities inside of you, the Tripura Sundari it's called. It takes you out of the world, and first it purifies your body. If you sometimes do the mantra on the hand, if your teacher teaches you how to do it on your hand, then that builds up an energy that goes right into the body, and then it purifies the body so you can go places like our founder Lex Hixon got the mother mantra from Swami Nikhilananda, and then look what he did after that. He interviewed everyone in so many different traditions, and he went into the Sufis and became a sheikh, and he went into Zen Buddhism and got his ordination there, and he went to the Eastern Orthodox Christianity and could circulate with those people, and he just had no problem going everywhere and every different religion. And that was because he had Mother Mantra given to him at the outset when he was at Columbia University, when he was still young. So that's a door opener. Mother Mantra is always a door opener for all levels of consciousness. And because she's the mother of the mantra, that's her power there that you're using when you say a mantra. It doesn't matter if it's a mantra to Ganesh or Vishnu or anyone else. That's mother power you're talking about. And she's the Vak Devi, the goddess of the word. So in that case, then back to the real point is that you get one mantra and you use it, and it purifies your body to begin. Then it protects you from your ancestors and from your family, basically, and from the world while you do spiritual practices, because Maya has a sort of automatic reflex in it that as soon as a person wants to get free with it, it comes running to strew all sorts of obstacles in your path. And, it would be easy to say, well, that's the devil doing it, as some traditions say. But the Tantras say that Maya is not sentient. It's not like out to get you like a devil. It's just an automatic reflex of name and form, and drops a lot of obstacles in the way of where you want to go because you want to go there. And so I would say, again, I can't really go too deeply in this with you, but I would say that you may be thinking too complexly about the mantra. Maybe just get one mantra and just say it for, concentrate on one deity, and use it for a long time. And you don't need to do a lot of austerity around it. That itself is the austerity. If you do it with the right mindset, then it should accomplish its work within months. And then what's it leading to is your open doorway into samadhi or nirvana, or that's the real point of it all, isn't it? I mean, we sort of lose sight of the goal when we focus too much on the mantra or on the scripture or on any other practice. Those are all practices, and yes, for sure, do them, and you can get deep in them even. But don't forget, every time merry-go-round goes around, there's a ring there, that you're supposed to reach out and grab, right? In the old days, you lean off the horse there that you're going around the circle of Maya, and you grab for the ring, and that's getting samadhi or realizing formless reality and realizing your identity with it, that thou art. So that thou art is not a mantra. It's a Mahavakya. You've probably heard of the Mahavakyas, and there are 4 great ones in the tradition, and then a few minor Mahavakyas that I think are there too. But that thou art, and aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Those are realizations waiting at the end of the practice of japa. Even Holy Mother said japa is just a practice. It should lead to the goal. So anyway, maybe write me on the email and we can talk about it. But yeah, I would say that those are things that come straight to mind when, and I've only heard just a little bit of what you're doing, of course, your austerity with it. But I would think if it's guided by a person who's a master of the mantra, like my teacher had got it from Holy Mother, so I felt very confident in making him my guide for mantra, and he told me in his time of initiation how to use it and what would happen. And then I forged on with it for the last 50 years, 45 years or so since he initiated me. So, but it's always been one mantra, on one deity, and authenticated by a master of that particular practice. So you have the psychological. I mean, I was doing practices before I met my teacher, but after I met my teacher, I felt like there was some sort of a psychological confirmation about it. And he gave me the mantra, and it gave me a push, in the right direction. So that much I can say about it. And if you want to write to me, we can go back and forth and talk more about it. What happened to Gudmundur and Michaela? I see that you're there too.
Namaste, Babaji.
Hey, namaste.
This past week, I've been thinking about the difference between seeing with the mind versus seeing with the heart. And I've been trying out an exercise where I'm looking at an object with the mind, where some coldness will come up at times, judgment, aversion, or clinging. And then dropping that awareness to the heart and looking at the same object, there's warmth, spaciousness, and a letting go. So I was curious if a samadhi of objects is just seeing with the heart. Oh, oops.
Where'd you go? Now I'm seeing with the heart. No, well, I would tend to say yes and no, I guess. I mean, it's kind of a hard question to determine the answer for, because if you're practicing under Patanjali's guidance how to look at objects, then you probably haven't opened your heart fully yet. I mean, if you're at that level of the limbs of yoga, I wouldn't say that probably, unless you're a very exceptional person who are like Sri Ramakrishna, who's just running up the amber stairs of birth and death all the time, and he looks like he's, it sort of reminds me of his story, actually, where people are in a race in the track, right? And they start, go, the bijam happens, right? The gun goes off. That's like Om. So everyone starts running, so they run around the track, and you look away and talk to your friend, and then you look back in 15 seconds, and you see that the person who was ahead of everyone else before you looked had run so far and so fast he caught up with everyone. It was a much faster run. So he was first when you looked. When you looked away, you look back, he was last. You see, he was at the tail end because he ran so fast he caught up with the rest of them in this circle race. So that's a story Sri Ramakrishna used. You can't really tell with these souls. They're sometimes they look like they're not illumined at all. And other times they're showing that they're the most illumined, and it just depends on which stage they're putting on or pretending. They're doing it for the sake of others, to show them, how to run faster, how to get to the goal. So in that way, then, if you're at a stage of yoga like Patanjali's talking about, where you're talking about savichara and savitarka and nirvichara and nirvitarka, those are samadhis, and the savitarka, and savichara are about taking objects and meditating on them as they are. And then later on, you take them into the nirvichara, nirvitarka state, and you look for their sources. It's a natural way of, without even believing in God, that the father of yoga takes us inward to try and find the sources of things, which is going to be the penultimate solution to everything that's bothering you. If you can let go of the outside and develop an inner life, then there's just nothing that can stop you after that. But you're going to have to really develop that inner life and be absolutely in certitude about it being one step closer to Brahman than the external life is. So it's all about using the tattvas to get back inside again, so you can see yourself. And no matter what darshana or what method each darshana is proposing, that's really going to be the penultimate aim, is that you develop an inner life and track how do they say it, forget the expression in Christianity. It's about the hound of heaven. Yeah, it's the hound of heaven. So you have to be like pursuing God, and you'll have to go inside to do that. So you have to be like a bloodhound that is sniffing out for every scent of higher consciousness that's inside of you. You have to be adamantly running like that bloodhound toward the source of that. And so in that way, whose question is this, by the way? I forgot. This there, yeah, what you're saying. So yeah, basically you said seeing with the heart. So so I would say that maybe if you were going to define that specifically, that would still be something that is going to open up for you later as you get to higher limbs of yoga and higher samadhis, like the Sananda and Sasmita samadhis, and finally a Sampragyata samadhi. I mean, those are samadhis that are bridging on formlessness and are having to do with maturation. The ego actually ripened, as Sri Ramakrishna says, and it's not unripe anymore. So it's dependable now. You have a good look at your Purusha. And you probably wouldn't be, I mean, we're having to define an expression like seeing with the heart in English words. And it's not, it's an expression we're using here in America. And the closest thing in Sanskrit would probably be Meda Kendra, the intelligence of the heart. So we know that it is a high ideal in India, and it has words in Sanskrit for it. But as we're putting it here in America, in our times today, what does it mean to see with the heart? And if you give it the highest definition, I would say it would mean you've had a glimpse of reality. You've seen yourself. You've seen the Purusha, the true individual self, and you must have ripened the ego by then. You must have already had some witness consciousness in you, and you've probably already gone deep enough to go beyond. I mean, having samadhi of objects, again, we have to be careful that we know that they studied objects so they could get beyond them, not so they could have pleasure with them. So again, you have to sort of look at your own progress and see how attached you are still to objects. and if you can let them go completely in meditation. So the 8 limbs of yoga, are set up like that, and in a very ingenious fashion. I mean, probably nobody in India is in doubt at all, and they're all in reverence of Patanjali. Every system loved Patanjali's system because it was really how to classify and bring together states of consciousness in as best as words could tell. And Patanjali did it in such a wonderful way with those few sutras, really. I mean, if you take all the sutras and strip the commentary out of them, I've got it right here. You've got like 6 or 8 pages. That's all it is. But boy, how many dozens and dozens of commentators, East and West, have taken apart those sutras now and added their commentaries to them. Here's mine, and this is only half of it. You see, so there'll be another volume that size. It's bigger than my head, in case you can't see. But that was 10 years of yoga study with all of you. Some of you took that entire course with me, and now it's all being collected and written down, and or it's actually already written because all the lessons were done week by week. So that great system of yoga, there's probably nowhere in it that it actually says, come on, let's go see with our heart, is what I'm saying. But that's, I would say, as close as I can come to answering that question would be, no, I don't think that when you're practicing the samadhi of objects, you don't even know what samadhi is yet. And you're so used to having objects as your friends and having objects for your pleasures and owning them and guarding them and maybe looking at them as other than what they truly signify, that it's going to take some practice ending in letting go of them. You're not being attached to them, being free of them, and being happy to be free of them before seeing with the heart can take place. I think they say that the yogi gets much more joy out of giving away than accumulating. So if the yogi is in a position where objects are still around, then he's moving amongst them without the slightest attachment to them, number one. And number two, he'll give them away rather than collect them. So he's less impeded by them. There's so many weights. So we have to look at complicity and complacency and compromise. The good C words there. We have to look at that. If you're sitting amongst a lot of wealth, like our founder was, like Shiksen, he's one of those people that Krishna mentioned in the Gita that was born with an opulent family, into an opulent family, but he was just always wearing dungarees and t-shirts and pants and farmer's outfit and various things you saw him in, except when he went to these spiritual events where he put on the right clothing for them. But he was just very unostentatious about the wealth that was around him, and he would be giving it away to people. We'd go see Dalai Lama or Karmapa or Sheikh Musafir, or we go here and there, and sometimes when I was with him, he'd walk up to the door and sign a $108 check and put it down for all of us, pay our way in. And so he was always using his money for spiritual purposes. There was no other way to do it than that. So my point being here is that you have to look around to what's hanging around on your walls and what's occupying the floors of your dwelling and what's in your kitchen and all these things and if you're using those in a dharmic life and doing a sadhana, a practice in your everyday life, then those things are just, they're not comforts anymore, as it were. They're just sort of necessities. And they help you to live a spiritual life, to keep your body healthy. But you have to make sure when your body's healthy that your mind is detached, because that's the problem most people encounter when they cater to the body too much. We have about 5 minutes before our satsang ends. So maybe another question.
Namaste, Babaji. This is a follow-up to something that you said earlier that I've often wondered about, which is why would a liberated individual, Jivan Mukta, not choose to come back and help other sentient beings? I think it's something I've never really understood in the concept of an arhat. I don't, if one is liberated, why would the choice not be to come back, take form, and do what is possible to help other beings?
I'm sorry, who said that Jivan Mukti wouldn't? Why is?
No, that's right. That you said you said that this individual would, but why would there even be a question mark? Why would it not just simply be the obvious next thing?
Well, yeah, I'm saying it would be.
Okay.
I'm not. Yeah.
Okay.
A Videha Mukti, maybe if you're confusing that or not seeing that yet, is a Videha Mukti is Videha, free of all bodies. So that being won't come back. Like probably Lord Buddha, wouldn't come back, but there would be some of his emanations would come back. And and then there may be also other clarification there, and it's that for the Jivan Mukta, it's maybe more a question of when to come back, because there are certain auspicious times to leave the body, and there are certain auspicious times in which to re-enter the body. Tibetans know about that via the bardos, but we know that even that Swami Vivekananda even consulted the almanac astrologically in India, which is of course far different than Americans' way of thinking of that. But it's not like he called up Abby or something and asked for directions, Dear Abby kind of thing in our newspapers. But he did consult for a good time of leaving, because he had the ability to leave at will. He got the leave boon from Lord Shiva in the ice caves when he was meditating there in the Himalayas to be able to leave his body anytime he wanted. So he still looked for the right time to leave, when the nadis were not crowded or where they were more open. It doesn't have all that much to do with planets out in space. They talk more about that when they talk about astrology, but it's more about inner worlds and how things line up there. And so they're aware of that. So then when they see it's a good time to leave, like through the higher chakras, he probably exited out of either the third eye or the crown chakra. So the great souls will leave out of the higher chakras and enter through them. Whereas ordinary souls are restricted to the three lower chakras. And so in that case, a Jivan Mukta would probably be choosing the right time for his entrance, his or her entrance, and his or her exit. So that could be another facet to it.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise, they're right and ready to come back when the need is upon them. There's, I think, always a need in the earth for, people are suffering so much
Yes.
that bodhisattvas and jivan muktas would always be on the scene to help.
Thank you.
Well, then, in order to make sure we're on time, and because we have an hour's break here, and then come back for God blogs. So, like I said, I put up those four God blogs. I think they're like, how an Eskimo studies snow conditions. I put that one up. How to create a layer cake in one eternal moment. And then I put up the storing spiritual honey one just the other day. And there was one, how everything looks alike in a storm. Sri Ramakrishna said everything looks alike in a storm. Those four are new God blogs. So if you want to take the hour or part of it and run your eyes over them, it's only a few paragraphs. And then you'll be armed with questions and discussions we can have in 1 hour. So wonderful to see you all and to be with you. It's always a great boon to have that happen. So aloha, namaste to all of you. I hope to see you in an hour.